In this video, we're going to explore the features of one of the master tables contained within Business Central, and that's the item table. For most companies, their inventory is sort of the center of all of the activity that they're going to do related to purchasing and selling product. So with that being said, when I look at the inventory system here, the first thing I see is a list view of all of my inventory items. And I can do a search here for virtually anything that's on this page. So for example, if I just do a search on Paris, although it's in the description and not necessarily in the item number, it'll find virtually anything that's in this list view that I want to search on. So for example, if I want to search on 1-8, it will narrow in on anything that has 1-8 in it. So this search functionality is extremely useful when you're looking for particular inventory items. From the list view, we can simply click on a item number, and this will actually open up the item card, the item page for this specific item. It is item number 1900-S, and this is a Paris guest chair. And if you notice, we can have a picture of these of the product located over here. We also can enter attributes about it. So for example, this color is black. We can have the depth, the width, the material, year, model, any number of different attributes for a particular product. From the item attribute facts box, I can click this and pick edit. And this opens up a new screen for me here where I can actually edit these attributes. So if I pick manage, I could enter a new line, which would allow me to enter another attribute, or I can highlight one of these and I could pick delete and it would delete that attribute. I also can change the attributes that are here. So it gives me complete control over setting attributes for various products. The item page is divided into 8 sections. So if I scroll down this, you'll see that there's the item, there's inventory, cost and posting, prices and sales, replenishment planning, item tracking, and warehouse. We'll look at each one of these sequentially. So since we're on the top of the page with the item card, we have, of course, the item number, we have the description. We can indicate whether this item is blocked, which it will then no longer let us actually use it. There are different types of inventory that I can have. So I could set this up as a normal inventory item, as a service item if I'm using the service module, or as a non-inventory item if I really do not want to carry the cost of these in my inventory valuation journals. There's also a base unit of measure. So the base unit of measure for an item is the smallest unit of measure in which you would use the product. If we look down into some of these other areas, you can see this is also a sales unit of measure, and in the replenishment area, there's a purchase unit of measure. So I can have multiple units of measure for a product. I can buy it by the case, sell it each, so on and so forth. So Business Central has a fairly robust program for multiple units of measure. I could also set up item categories. So here in this Kronos database, we're looking at furniture. And so we have chairs and desks and tables. And this field is very valuable for being able to sort your inventory when you're doing reporting and so on and so forth. There's also a field that we're going to look at here. This has automatic extended text checked. We'll look at this feature a little bit later on. But what this actually does is it allows you to add additional comments or text to this item every time it's inserted in a purchase order or a sales order. A couple of other fields, the purchasing code, I actually have some choices here of this order must be called in. I can set it up as a normal drop ship or normal special order. This field is optional, certainly doesn't have to be used. And of course then the last date that this item was modified. In the next section called inventory, there is a shelf number. If I didn't want to use the robust warehouse management system that's contained within Business Central, I could simply put a shelf number in here, and this would keep track of where this item is. I can't make that mandatory with all transactions, but without warehousing, gives you some way that you can actually set up locations for things without using the warehouse functionality. There's also a quantity on hand, quantity on purchase order, quantity on sales order, a stock out warning that's available to look at. So use the default stock out warning, or I can just set it to yes or no if I want to, when I'm entering something on a sales order, have a warning pop up that says this unit is we don't have adequate inventory in order to ship this. There's a over receipt code here, so I can actually, if I'm using max quantities, I could set this up to over receive a particular percentage here. This happens to be 10%, but I could set that to anything that I wanted to. And there's a unit volume, which is not typically used on, I don't have many customers that actually use this volume, but it could be very useful for certain types of businesses. One of the things we want to take a look at here is if we look at, for example, quantity on sales order. If I click on this, this will drill directly to the sales order that this item is contained on. And if it was on multiple sales orders, I would be able to go directly to the sales order. And you can see this is the item that is on this particular sales order. So from the item card, I can drill directly into sales orders, purchase orders, and I can also drill into quantity on hand. You can see that I have 10 of these, and if I drill into here and I find the entry for this, this is the posted receipt for these 10 that are here. If I show this entry, this is the posted receipt purchase receipt that I had for these, and I have 10 of these that are in my south location. So I have the ability from the item card to drill in and look at all of these features and functions that are sitting on this inventory section. The next section of the item page is called Costs and Posting. And in this section, we get to select the costing method for this product. So Business Central has all of the traditional costing methods that are recognized by the generally accepted accounting principles. So we have FIFO, LIFO, specific, average, or standard costing. This particular product is being costed at FIFO. We have a unit cost, and of course this is a blended average of all of these various purchases and sales that we've done, purchases that we've done on this product. And if I drill into this 150, I actually can see every transaction that's taken place on this, and of course that unit price of $150.30. It's the summation of all of these first in, first out purchases that I've had because they may have been done at different price levels. So we have the unit cost for these. If this was standard costing, then your cost would be under the standard costing field here. We have a field called last direct cost, and this is the last cost that we paid for this particular item. So if I write a purchase order, I could have a purchase order that was for $145, and if that was received now, this last direct cost would come in at $145. So this varies with the last purchase price that we had for this particular product. There also are posting groups here, and these posting groups drive the transactions for this particular item to various GL account numbers. We're not going to go into how these work right now, but for every item, we have posting groups that must be set up. And when we're doing transactions with these, this drives this to various types of, or various GL account numbers. So finished goods, retail, finished goods wholesale, any number of accounts that we may have set up. If I'm selling this product out of the country, then of course the tariff number would be important for this particular product and the country and region code. If I'm doing business strictly in the US, these fields are not required for anything that you're doing. You can certainly fill them in, but they're not required. Let's scroll down to the next area here, which is prices and sales. And in this section, we have the unit price. So if I don't have customer-specific pricing set up for an item, this is the price that will default on a sales order when I enter this as a line item on a sales order. So I can set my unit price on these to come up, and this would be overwritten by customer-specific pricing if we actually had it. In addition to that, I have allow invoice discounts per item, so I could allow a discount on this item if I wanted to. Notice we have the sales unit of measure. I might normally buy these in cases, and I could then typically sell them each. And I could block sales transactions with this. So if I click this, I could no longer use this on a sales order, but I could use it on a purchase order, and I could do other types of inventory transactions on it. So I have the ability to specifically block certain types of activity down on the replenishment system down here. I also have a button that says block purchases. So maybe I have these items in inventory. I want to continue to sell them, but I don't want to buy them any longer because they're becoming obsolete. So I could block these from being purchased. The next tab that we want to look at is the replenishment tab. And in this tab, we basically tell the system, how are we going to replenish this item? Are we going to purchase it? Are we going to produce it on a production order? Or are we going to use assembly orders in order to replenish this part? So I can select whichever of these options I'm going to use to replenish this. So for example, if I picked assembly order here, notice this now says assemble to stock or assemble to order. So I can pick which of these ways I'm going to do this. Am I going to stock this item, or am I going to make it specifically for orders as they come in? If I pick production order here, then I have these same options available, assemble to stock or assemble to order here. So these are the three options that I have. And if this is a purchased item, then down under the planning section, I have some other areas that will relate to that. I can have a lead time calculation for this. So this lead time calculation could be 7 days, 2 weeks, whatever it winds up being. I have the typical vendor that I purchase this from. So if this is a purchased item, when I create a requisition worksheet or a planning worksheet, it will automatically bring this vendor in to create purchase orders to. I could also enter in the vendor's item number. So if their item number is not the same as the item number that I have this under, I could enter in a vendor item number here. And when I create a purchase order for this 1900-S chair, it would actually insert whatever number I have here on the purchase order for the vendor. We'll take a look at this just a little bit later on. I also have my typical purchasing unit of measure. So I purchase this in pieces, could be in cases, whatever I would typically do the purchase in. When I go out to create a purchase order, I can override that. So if I normally bought it in cases, I could still do it in any unit of measure that is set up for this item. So I can still purchase it in pieces if I chose to. And again, we talked about being able to block this. If it's now becoming an obsolete part, I may want to continue to sell it, but not allow any further purchases of this item. The next area that we want to look at is the Planning tab. And on the Planning tab, there are a lot of fields here, and the planning parameters for these and exactly how these work is going to be covered in another video, but we want to take a look at basically the reorder policy. So if this is a purchased item, how am I going to control that purchase? Is it fixed reorder quantity? Is it going to be maximum quantity? And if you notice, as I pick these, some of these fields over here are grayed out. Like with this choice, I can't enter a reorder quantity. This is grayed out. I can't do anything with it. So depending upon which of these I pick, I have the ability to complete other fields that are here. So the choices are the typical ones that you might see: fixed reorder quantity, max quantity. There's order and lot for lot. And these two are pretty self-explanatory. The other one that is used a great deal on the manufacturing side is lot for lot. And what lot for lot does is that forces this item to be looked at based upon the demand that we have out here for this product either on production orders, assembly orders, or sales orders. And so it's strictly looking to replenish whatever demand we currently have out here, as opposed to having fixed reorder quantities and so on and so forth. Business Central has the ability to reserve product. So I can allow this to be reserved. Here it's optional. Here it's never, and I can make it always. So I can actually reserve material as I'm purchasing it to specific production orders or to specific sales orders. So it gives us a lot of flexibility in the system. I have order tracking policies, and in the order tracking policies here, this basically functions with serial numbers and lot numbers. So it allows me to set up serial and lot numbers and then force this product to be checked through those processes. Tells me if there's a stock keeping unit, and we'll talk about this in a little bit more detail later on. As you can see, some of the fields that are down here, is it a critical item? Do I have safety lead time? What is my safety stock quantity that I may want to set up? So all of the kinds of fields that are needed to configure up an item, whether it is an assembled to order, an assembled to stock, or a purchased item. That configuration is done in this section. The next tab is called Item Tracking, and this is kind of related to what we talked about up above. And here I can select item tracking codes. So item tracking codes allow me to track things like lot numbers or serial numbers at through different documents. So if I edit this particular tracking list here, this is serial number all. So basically, I'm tracking through this serial number info must exist, purchase orders, sales orders, positive and negative adjustments, assembly orders, sales tracking, purchase tracking, transfer orders in the warehouse, all of the various documents and features that we want to track. And if this was a lot number series, those same kinds of things could be checked down here for all of the various lot numbers that I wanted to track things through. So I have a great deal of control over where I'm going to track serial numbers and lot numbers on specific items. I'm going to just close this back up. I can't assign anything to this because this item already has transactions that have taken place. But I could, if this were a new item, I could assign this for serial numbers or lot numbers. Then I can actually go in here and I can select a number series for my serial numbers. So the basic setup in NAV as we see it now, there's SN1, which is a serial number series 1, and it's also a series number 2, so that I could assign to a different product if I wanted to, and I can create as many of these as I want to. So I can select a particular number series for my serial numbers, and the same thing for lot numbers. Here I can select a series of these as well. If I've selected a lot number series here, I also can set expiration dates. So this material will expire 6 months after I receive it. And if I have this set up, 6 months from now, I can no longer use that lot of material. So it gives me a great deal of control over how I'm actually going to control my inventory. And the last tab on our item page is the warehouse tab. So I could set up a warehouse class code for this particular item, a put away template code that would tell me how to put this away, what the preferred path to put it away is, put away unit of measure code, physical counting period. So if you do cycle counting, you could set up A, B, and C categories here and set those up so that your A products are counted monthly, your B products are counted every 3 months or 6 months, and your C products are counted once a year. When you enter that code in here, then it will calculate the next counting periods and so on and so forth. I don't have anything set up for this particular item, but in this section, you can see that this controls cycle counting and basically how this item is put away from receipts if you're using Business Central's warehousing functionality. Now that we've explored the tabs that are on the item page, there's also a lot of other features located across the top of this page. So if I go to Related, for example, I can see I have history, item, availability, purchases, sales, bill of material. I have all of these various functions that are out here. So for example, if I went to history and I looked at ledger or entries here, I could see ledger entries, physical inventory ledger entries, reservation entries if I had this reserved for something, warehouse entries, all sorts of things. If I just pick one of these, like the ledger entries, I would see every entry, ledger entry that has taken place to this item since the time it was set up. And I can see the quantity that was purchased, the type of transaction that this was, if it was a purchase receipt, if it was a sales shipment. I can see all of the various types of transactions that we have out here. So I have access to very easily see all of the transactions that have taken place with this. Another feature that's kind of interesting to look at here is that if I go to related items and I look at here, I can look at dimensions, which are beyond the scope of what we're going to talk about here, but these are attributes that I can attach to any given transaction for this item. I want to look at extended text for a moment. And I've set up some extended text for this particular item. And if I click on this, um, it asks me for a language code. Well, if you leave it blank, it's for all languages, as I've indicated here. A description of this is called test. It has a starting date and an ending date in which this text is valid, and I can have about 50 lines of text for this particular that will relate to this particular item. When I create a sales order or a purchase order, this text will automatically be inserted directly under the line. So to illustrate for you how this works, if I go to sales orders for this particular item, this is a sales order that contains this particular item on it. So I'm going to show the order here. And as you can see on this order, when I've put this line in for this Paris guest chair, it's inserted this line under it. Says this is a test of the extended text. And if I were to enter another line for this, I'm going to make this item. I'm going to enter in 1900-S for my item number here. And it's going to tell me my shipping date is before today's date, which I know that. And if you notice, when I put it in, it put this line in here again. I can tell this is for a quantity of one of these. And this is actually, every time that I insert this item, it will insert this line of text to go along with it. So if I don't have enough room in my description for what I really want, how I really want to describe product, I can use extended text to increase the amount of textual information I can supply to customers and to vendors. It does this exact same thing if I create a purchase order for it. So if I exit out of here and I go back to my item card, another really handy feature here is that I can actually create attachments for this. So I can go into the system and I can actually create a new attachment here. So let's just assume for this particular item, I'm going to select a file out here. I want to go to this one. I'm going to attach this diagram to this, and I now have one attachment that has been associated with this. So let's just assume that I have something that this is being used on. I need an office diagram or whatever. I can attach anything here. I could attach certificates of conformance for products. I can attach virtually anything to any of these kinds of documents within Business Central. So I have one document attached here. I can click on this. This will bring this up so that I actually now can download this document and take a look at it. And this is the document. I'm just going to save it here. And I can move over to this and open when done. And you can see the attachment that I have put on this particular product. This happens to be a office network diagram, but whatever document would be related to this item that you'd want to display, it can open up any kind of JPEG, PDF, any standard document out here, Word documents, Excel, anything that you want to attach. I'm going to close this up, and there are a lot of features related to this item that we just don't have time to cover all of them. One of the things I want to show you is that there are some ways that we can view things. So I can look at item availability by event, period, variant. I'm going to look at location, for example. And as you can see, we have multiple warehouses that are set up here. We have the east, we have the main warehouse, we have outbound logistics, and these two are typically used for transfer orders. We have a south warehouse and a west warehouse, and we actually have 10 of these that are in the south warehouse. So I can see the quantity on hand out here and see where it's at. One of the functions that Business Central has is that in addition to having these warehouses, we also can have stock keeping units for each one of these. And the advantage of creating a stock keeping unit is that these locations may be located hundreds of miles apart. So they may be purchasing things from different vendors with different lead times, and they may want to keep different stocking levels for each of these warehouses. So Business Central allows you to do that by creating stock keeping units. If I close this page and go to related warehousing, I can look at stock keeping units for this item, and there are none. So we don't have any stock keeping units set up for this particular item. So we can do that very simply. We want to go to Actions, Functions, Create Stock Keeping Units. And from here, I can create this per location, which means it's going to do every one of the locations that I have here. And I can do it for this single item. If I leave this blank, it would do it for every item that we have. I'm going to do it just for this single item. I could limit it to a specific location if I want to. I want to create a stock keeping unit for each of the locations that are here. So I'm just going to say OK. And this has now created stock keeping units for me. So if I go to Warehouse, Stock Keeping Units, I now have a stock keeping unit for my east, main, south, and west locations. I never have them for in-transit locations, but it's now created a stock keeping unit for me for each of these locations. And in each of these locations, I then can actually go out and set different ordering controls for each one of these. So if I double click on my south location here, I now have the ability to go into the replenishment system and the planning system. And in each one of these, I can set my own methods here. Maybe I want to do max quantity as opposed to fixed reorder quantity. And I could set up that min-max level that I want to have for this particular item at this location. So it gives me the ability to actually go out and create miniature versions of the item card. It doesn't have all the fields that are on the item card, but miniature versions. When I do that, the settings that are on the item card carry over to each of these, and then I can go in and make modifications to them to suit my location. And the last feature that I want to illustrate for you comes from basically sales prices and purchase prices. So I can set up specific sales prices for customers. So if we take a look at this particular discount that we have here, I've set this up for my 1900 S chair, the one that we've been looking at here. And if I have a list price, this comes in, if there's no record set up here, this would come in at $192.50 as I recall. But now I've set up a price record here, and for all customers, what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign a price here for this 1900S guest chair if they purchase a quantity of at least one, and I could set up multiple quantities here. So 1 to 9, they get a particular price, 10 to 20, they get another. 21 to 100, they get another. But I've set this up to give them a unit price of $175. And then I've set up a customer specific record here for customer 20,000 so that this actually will give them a different price. So If we look at what they get, customer 20,000, we put that line on there, they'll get $165 for the unit price. So I can set up specific price records for purchasing this item from vendors as well as for sales records for selling it to different types of customers. So we've covered some, but not nearly all the features that exist on the item card. If I go back to the list view for these, this list view is extremely easy to use. And if I click on a particular item here, or as I scroll down through these, I don't want to click on the item. If you notice over on the right-hand side here, information comes up about these items that actually show me the costing method, quantity on hand, and so this is updating in real time as I move through these items over on the left-hand side. If I find something here like assembly order, it says assembly BOM, no. Well, I can order these descending if I want to, and here are all of my assembly BOM orders, or all of my items that have assembly BOM set up on them. So on any of the columns that are listed here, I can highlight these. I mean, I can actually reorder them, ascending, descending, however I want to do that. So it's very easy to be able to sort this information. So a target-rich environment with features in Business Central's item page. I'd also like to show you some of the reports that are available here. So if we look at something like assembly and production, we can see assembly order to sales, where used, quantity explosions on BOM, costing, WIP, cost shares. If we look at inventory, we can get inventory list, inventory vendor catalogs, physical inventory list. There's a whole range of reports that we can get, and then within these there are additional reports that we can get. So there are about 50 different reports that are available just on this inventory item list that are here. So Business Central is rich in reporting and your ability to gain information about your items. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, remember to click below and subscribe for more.